Okay, the game is Paperbag Dungeon. These are the basics. Setup's really simple. You shuffle. You find one of these dungeon gates. It has a burst of light on the back with a broken door. It's always got a Y-shaped tunnel, and the two defenders stand in front of the door on the closed side. You have two of these in game. You find one and you build it. Then you draw two cards to be in your hand. These are your vault cards, and you can put them wherever you want. You don't flip these over. Cards always enter play facing with the same side facing up as you drew them. You are allowed to look on the back of the cards, though. This one has a sleeping giant. This one has some goblins having a campfire, and on the back, the campfire has been put out, and they dropped a diamond on the way out. So, we begin our first turn by drawing a card. This is a monster card. If you draw a monster card during the first 9 turns, you will place it on the bottom of your deck and draw another. Monsters don't enter the game until turn 10. You can tell it's a monster because it has a starburst pattern on one side. That's the same burst of light from the dungeon door that you saw on the open dungeon gate. It's also got, most of them have a skull on the dead side to let you know that it's still a monster card. More about monsters later. For now, I'm just going to place it on the bottom and keep going. It's a good thing at first to have a few monster cards cycled to the bottom of your deck because it's less monsters you have to deal with in the beginning. But if you're not well prepared in the end, when you make it all the way through the deck, those monsters can come back to get you. Alright, so I've drawn my first card at the beginning of my first turn. It's a trap card. This trap has already been sprung. I have to build it this face up. This is what a primed trap looks like. It's ready to spring. This isn't as useful, but that's the way I drew it, so I have to build it. I'm going to build it right here. The closer you can build your traps to your dungeon gate, the more likely that a monster will have to pass over them to reach your dungeon gate. So it's always good to get traps early. At the beginning of turn 2, I'm drawing another card. Now, each turn I have the option of either building the card I draw, or I can swap it with one of the cards from my hand and build that card instead. This is a really good card to have. It has a gem on it. It also has a goblin on it. Both of these are useful abilities. There are abilities associated with the pickaxe and the gnome, but those are for the advanced game. I'm not going to get into them here. I'm just going to build that here. Now I'm going to draw another card. Now, for the purpose of illustrating what you might want to do and not want to do during a game, I'm going to make a dumb move. Normally I would do this and build it here so that I have another defended entrance to my dungeon gate. But let's say I wanted to make my left side really well defended. So I'm going to put this. This is a door, by the way. You see, it's a gate. There. It's open and closed, but it comes into play. Let's say I drew it open side up, right? It comes into play like that. I'm going to build it here. Turn 4. I draw a card. I think I'm going to build here, but I want to show you something cool, so I'm gonna swap this card with this card from my hand. See, this card has the goblins on it. I'm gonna build it here, and we'll show you how goblins work. I know a monster's coming, so I'm gonna prime my trap, and I can tell a monster's coming because the monsters are going to show up on the top of your deck the turn before they appear, so you'll know they're coming. And let's just say, for the purpose of illustrating how monsters work, that 9 turns have already gone by, and this is turn 10. That's we're entering into. So when I draw this monster card, I'm going to not discard him. So we'll pretend this is turn 10. I know a monster's coming, so I want to prime this trap for him. So the only way that I can flip cards over is with special abilities or gems. This card has a gem on it. I can mine this gem to flip another card. Here's how that works. I choose the card with the gem on it, I flip it over, and flipping the gem allows me to flip one other card of my choosing. I chose it and I flipped it, and I use that to prime my trap. But there's one more mechanic involved, because this card has a goblin on it. Goblins have pointy ears and pointy feet. They're easy to recognize. This card also has a goblin on it. So, what happens when you have a goblin on a card is, anytime that you flip over a card that has a goblin on it, in this case I'm flipping the card because I'm mining the gem. Anytime that a goblin card is flipped, it causes every other goblin card in the game to also flip. So, this card has a goblin on it. So I flip that over, and it reveals another gem. So I have spent a gem, and I've just recouped a gem, thanks to the help of the goblins. Also, this you don't always see right away. There's a little goblin hiding there. So that card has to be flipped too. So these goblins, sometimes they really hurt you. In this case, they really helped. They gave me an extra gem to replace the one I just spent, and they shut the door for me. So already I have an infinite loop of gems available to me that allow me, over the course of 2 turns, to flip one extra card without losing my gem. Because every time I flip this one to spend the gem, I get another card flip elsewhere and recoup this at the same time. This is an example of one of the triggered patterns that, if you get really lucky and you can set it up correctly, can be to your benefit. But we're still on turn 4. Turn 4 just ended. I just flipped this card to prime this trap, and that revealed this gem. Now my turn ends, the monster's coming, but I wasn't paying attention. You see, if the monster had been live side up, here's a little pan, but he's armored, he's got goat's feet and a goat's tail. This is the live side of the monster card. This is the dead side. It's got a skull and some bones. If it's a live monster, he must attach to the longest tunnel in the game. Tunnels are counted, the length of tunnels is determined by how many cards make them up, not how long they are. So even though this winding tunnel looks longer, for our purposes, it's the same length as this one. 1, 2 cards long on both sides. And if cards are of an equal length, then I would get to choose which of the 2 equal length cards he attaches to. So I wouldn't choose here, because then you'd have a straight path to my dungeon door. I would choose over here, because there's a gate blocking him from my dungeon door. If I had left the gate open, there's still a trap. And the way traps work is, once a monster connects, he begins to count his way toward your door, hoping to open it. But if he encounters a trap along the way, you have the option of springing the trap to kill the monster. So this side's really safe. From most attacks, there are some monsters that can open doors, but I don't think I'll get into that in this tutorial. But I was wrong. When I was setting up my dungeon defenses here, I didn't realize that he wasn't live side up. He's dead side up. When you draw a dead monster, you're obligated to play that monster and then bring him to life. But unlike a live monster, a dead monster doesn't attach to your longest tunnels. A dead monster attaches to your shortest tunnel. That means he attaches right here. So I did all that work for nothing. He attaches, and then he comes to life, and then we begin a phase called the monster flip phase that comes right before my regular flip phase. The monster attaches, and then he counts his way to the door, 1, and then he flips the door to open. Afterwards, the monster flip phase ends. I have a flip phase. If I can shut my door again, it'll be shut at the beginning of next turn, and if he reaches it again, he'll just open it again. If I can't manage to get my door shut before the beginning of next turn, then at the beginning of the next flip phase, his monster flip phase initiates again, and he's going to reach an open door, and I'm going to lose the game. So basically, I have till the end of this turn to shut the door he just opened. And I have a few options. I could spend my gem to flip that card. But what if I didn't have any gems? Let's say, for whatever reason, there just aren't gems in my dungeon. I've spent them all. Well, I have an extra resource in my vault cards. I can't use any of the icons on the vault cards. They're not in play. But I can discard a vault card by putting it under my deck, just like it's a monster card that I'm getting rid of. And discarding a vault card allows me to flip over any card as if I had just mined a gem. So you can mine gems and spend the gems to flip a monster over just like it's any other card. But I didn't have a gem, so I discarded my vault card to flip another card. And the card I chose to flip is my monster card. Now, why didn't I choose to flip my dungeon gate? Because I don't lose the game if my dungeon gate's open. I lose the game if a monster reaches an open dungeon gate. So there's no point in me shutting the gate just to have him open the gate again at the beginning of the next turn. The more important thing is to take him out of the equation. So let's roll things back a bit. Let's say that I do have this gem. And let's say that I haven't discarded this card yet. And he's still alive, and he just entered the dungeon, and he just opened my gate. Now it's my flip phase. I'm going to mine this gem to flip him over. There we go. But I'm still left with an open gate. Now, I like to leave my gates open until I know that I don't have any choice but to close them or put myself at risk. But let's say that I'm a cautious player and I want to make sure I don't forget to close it eventually. I still have the option of discarding one of these cards. I'll discard this one. I've discarded one of the cards from my vault, and I'm going to spend that to shut my gate too. So I had to basically spend 2 gems to undo the damage that he just did. You'll notice that when I discarded a card from my hand, I didn't draw another one. That's because discarding your vault cards eliminates them permanently. My hand's now shorter than it was, or smaller than it was. What that means is, in future turns, say I draw this card, I have a choice between building this one card or swapping it with one of my vault cards and building that one instead. Just like before, except I don't have 2 vault cards to choose from. Instead of having 3 cards in front of me with the option to build any one of those 3, I have to choose between these 2. I can spend my other vault card, but once I spend my other vault card, then I have no choices. I always have to build the card that comes up on the top of my deck, and sometimes that can lead you into some very bad corners that you don't want to be in. There's only 2 ways to win the game. The first way to win the game is to connect all these tunnels together so that they form a perfect closed system with no openings like this one or this one. In this game, I could never achieve that win scenario because I've already got a tunnel here with no room to build onto it. So it's useful. This is one of the most useful cards in the game because of these goblins and the gem they drop. It's also one of the hardest cards to win with because it creates this sort of really difficult to build onto W shape. The final win condition is to go all the way through the deck, build a massive dungeon that covers your entire table without running out of room and without any monsters escaping. That's how I win most of the time. every once in a while, I will manage to close off a dungeon, and then sometimes if I'm really lucky, I can seal off a dungeon later in the game. Even though I've opened a whole bunch of tunnels up, I've somehow managed to wrangle them into a shape where I have a protected dungeon. So that's going to be one of the harder to do, but more rewarding ways to win when it comes to scoring points. Now, this is a second dungeon door. When you draw a second dungeon door, you have to play it. You're obligated to play this one. You can't swap it. It's just like drawing a monster card. And I'm going to play it where you can play it wherever you like. I'm going to put it here, or yeah, I'll put it right here just so you can see it. This will do, and it comes into play shut. So it's now shut. This puts me in a rough spot though, because I now have an extra vulnerability here. Monsters aren't just going to attach to this one. When I'm trying to figure out what my shortest tunnel is, this is now my shortest tunnel, whereas it used to be this one. So now whenever I draw a dead monster, it's going to immediately attach to one of these. What do we have here? This is a live monster. It's a tree monster. The dead side, this one, the skull's kind of hidden. I should probably go and draw some sort of big skull in the middle of this so that it's easier to tell that it's a dead monster. But after you've played a couple times, you'll immediately recognize it. We'll see what I do with the iconography there. He's going to attach to my longest tunnel. Well, it's not this one anymore. It's not this one anymore. This is one length, and this is 2 spaces. So he's going to try to attach to here. Oh, but he can't, because he would overlap this. You're allowed to overlap a little bit. Like, I could overlap this much. I could overlap just the edge, but the moment I cross over the wall, then it's not allowed. So, like, you can overlap the blank space behind the walls. I could put them down there, but it would make it so that I could never flip this card. I'm not allowed to flip cards that have been overlapped. So if I could play him right here, and if I could overlap the blank space without crossing the wall, that would be a good way to make sure that he never comes back to life. But I can't do that because his walls come too close to the edge. So I can't build him here. If you're not able to attach to the longest tunnel, then you have to attach to the next longest tunnel, which would be this one. So he goes right there, and wow, that's a bad spot for me because I can't build here. I've run out of room. I can't seal off my dungeon because I'll never be able to seal these 2 tunnels, so that win condition's out. And any new cards I draw at all are going to come right here. They all have to attach here. I've drawn another card. This is a big problem. See how many openings it gives? I could play it here, but then I would have 3 short tunnels for monsters to attach to. 3 ways for them to attack. I'd rather just keep 1 tunnel, so I'm going to swap this with my remaining vault card. I'm going to build that vault card. See, it's just an L shape. I'm going to build it right here. These are rats. Rats have the ability to tunnel through earth, an ability that I'll explain later. They also have the ability to pass through grates. See, there's a grate, and you can see them passing through it. Pretty clear. And there's a dirt wall, and you can see that they've broken through it. So that's how digging is indicated, and that's how passing through grates is indicated. And it doesn't matter if they came into play alive or dead, there's only 1 space available that they fit, and that's right here. So they are going to come to life once I play them. They're now alive. They are going to reach my dungeon gate. Not good. They're going to open it, and I don't have any gems left. I have 1 gem left. I spend the gem. I won't be able to get that gem back because this sleeping giant can't be woken up by anything except for a very specific trigger. And I spend the gem to flip this card over. I've killed the monsters. The threat's gone. Well, the game continues. This is a monster card. These Viking dwarves. It doesn't matter because I don't have anywhere to put it. It looks nice, but it's got a major flaw. I can't build onto this. See, I can't build there without overlapping a card. I can't build here. I can't build here. I lose the game. That's an example of a losing game. Let me talk a little bit about ability levels for a second. I'm playing this game on a kitchen countertop. You can see my teapot right there that I had the phone sitting on. I could probably win a game on this kitchen countertop without running out of room. It's a big enough table for an average player to play a full deck game and win it by building every card in the game. And if you're chasing after the win condition that looks like this, like a sealed off dungeon, I have to find another cap. There, I have a sealed off dungeon here. Let's say this was also sealed off. If I chase after that perfect dungeon, then I'm going to work myself into a corner where I can't even access this side of the table. If it's too easy, you just get a smaller table. But there is a point at which the table becomes so small that you can't win without sealing off your dungeon, and that's not really the most fun way to play, so I do recommend playing on a large-ish table. And if you're going to play on a smaller table, like a little a desk or a coffee table, then I recommend playing the relaxed version of the game where you aren't fighting the monsters, you're just trying to build a pretty dungeon that has no open hallways. So that's a quick game. It took me a half hour to describe. I have had games go as long as an hour and a half. There's a few more rules I haven't talked about. There are some abilities that I haven't talked about. There's 2 cards that have the ability to bring monsters back to life. There are 2 different types of digging monsters. Some of them can dig through these stone walls, but only a short distance. Some of them can dig through earth walls and can dig from over here all the way to over here. And they will get you sneakily later in the game. Even though the rules are really fluid and easy to follow once you know them, you still have to learn what each of the symbols means. Oh, and I should mention, I will eventually colorize these symbols. You won't always have to search for these diamonds. I think I'm going to color them in, and I'm going to offer the option of both. I'm going to have a print and play file that has colorized icons that mean things, and I'm going to offer a print and play that has these hidden gems, like this one. This is the only card that has 2 gems on it, and they're very well hidden, so you might not notice them at first. It's got a lot going on. There are a few of these that are a little messy and need to be redrawn, and there are a few of them that are just immaculate and look amazing. Trying to get everything up to the same standard. So tell me what you think of it. I'm going to try and get a clean version of the rules uploaded too, so you can look at those and nitpick. Thanks for your time and attention, and I hope you like it, and good luck to everyone else who's in the contest.